Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining our first webinar of this series that we're going to have a number of these webinars every 3 or 4 weeks covering different aspects of the total body PET. My name is Fernando Calamante. I'm the director of Sydney Imaging, that is the core imaging core facility at the University of Sydney. And I'd like to start by acknowledging and paying my respects to the traditional owners of the land in which we are meeting today. For those of you like me that are at the University of Sydney, these are the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. And as an immigrant, Australian immigrant, I often said this, that is, it was very mind-blowing to me when I moved here. I found out that, the length of time, the 60,000 years that the elders have been, the Aboriginals have been caring about country. But similarly, it's very hard to think of what 60,000 years means because it's very hard to visualize. So I often make this analogy that if you now compress all those 60,000 years in 1 minute, there's something that we can all visualize in our head. We all had these timers of things that is just 1 minute. In that time scale, the time since the arrival of the first fleet is about a couple of 100 milliseconds, which is the blink of an eye. So it's really amazing how much culture and history has been in this land for just before that blink of an eye that we had. So with this, I'd like to start the webinar. How we're going to have organized this, I'll give a brief presentation about the Australian total body PET facility that we are starting and how it's going to operate and the fee structure and the available resources. This is going to be followed by Steve Miko talking more about what the total body PET can do and what are the opportunities. And then to finish off, Amanda Hammond from Siemens will talk us about the actual system itself, the Quadra. And then we're going to wrap up with some questions and answers that we can. So you can, in the meantime, if you want, you can type your questions in the Q&A box that you have there, or otherwise just ask them at the end. So we got to this point. It took a long time, and actually to get to this point, and it was a lot of work from people like Steve. Steve Miko was integral to this thing, and other people here at the university and NIF. There was a lot of work being done back in 2016 time for the working with Alan Finkel, that was Australian chief scientist, to actually bring this technology into the roadmap, the National Research Infrastructure Roadmap. And in fact, there was a paragraph that was explicitly saying there is an opportunity for Australia to be at the forefront of imaging technology by joining a new generation of PET technology capable of acquiring tracer kinetics from all tissues of the body at very low doses. And that all that work that was done behind the scenes to put this data was very important, because that meant that then through NCRIS, that was the key federal source of funding, the National Imaging Facility was able to secure funds. And then through that, we were able to secure funds to this project. So it took a long time to get us to this point. So this Australian total body PET facility that we are setting up is really a partnership between three: the University of Sydney, the Northern Sydney Local Health District, and the National Imaging Facility. The system will be owned by the University of Sydney, but it will be located at the Royal North Shore Hospital. It will be operated in an equal time share clinical research. So by default, it's going to be kind of the morning is going to be for the clinical operations of the nuclear medicine department at the hospital, and in the afternoon for research operations. But obviously, there is going to be flexibility. If some research needs to happen in the morning, there would be to be accommodated. And similarly, if any clinical work needs to happen in the afternoon, it needs to be accommodated. But kind of the default operation would be like this. Importantly, the system will be operated exclusively by the Royal North Shore clinical staff. So the same team of nuclear medicine technologists and nurses, it will be operating both in the morning for the clinical work and in the afternoon for the research work. And the access to the scanner would be for research through the University of Sydney. And consistent with NIF and NCRIS principle, this is going to be an open merit-based process principle. So it's open for everyone. is the system will be installed in mid-May, and we should be operational for research for early July. So regarding how the workflow of a typical study would work in the facility, we kind of have 4 stages. We can think of that one. During the onboarding, there's going to be a simple expression of interest of wanting to use the facility, discussions with the NIF fellow that I'll introduce very soon, and then submit a very brief project for facility endorsement, and as I said, for merit-based the standard NIF and NCREASE principles. Then there is going to be the second part, if you want. That is when the planning itself starts, that is obtaining all the ethics and other regulatory approvals, registering the project in our booking system itself, and then planning the protocols and the scheduling that will be required. Then the execution itself, acquiring the data and the data analysis, and then if you want, the celebration, corking the bottle and all the outputs of the project. And throughout the whole process, the University of Sydney will facilitate and support the various interactions at various stages of the process and the communication between us and the Royal North Shore Hospital for the success of this project. So moving a bit more into these resources that will be available, a key person here would be Yorgos Angelis, that is our total body PET NIF facility fellow. He will join us at the Q&A part. Again, he's present here. And he will provide support for logistics, budgeting, study design, advice, and also training on data analysis. And of course, also is open for research collaborations and participate in research collaborations with many of you. So I should also say there is going to be also a project integration officer the university will have to help more with the admin side and the logistics of it, also the admin side, the integration with the Royal North Shore Hospital. The system will have a number of analysis and visualization software like Hermes and MIM and others that will be available to users. And the system will also be linked or connected to the Australian Imaging Service. For those of you who are not familiar with the Australian Imaging Service, it's a national platform, currently has 11 universities. It also involves the National Imaging Facility and the Australian Research Data Common. It's a platform for collaborative imaging research. It's cloud-based, and it allows secure and audited data management, access, and the identification directly from the scanner. And also have things like a browser accessible for viewing, annotation, and analysis. And within the scanning fees that I mentioned in the next slide, there will be is included 2 weeks of storage costs in this imaging service in the AIS, including the fee. And I mean, the idea would be that then after those 2 weeks, those that are part of these universities will be able to discuss with your own university how to maintain that within the AIS. And those that are not part of the university will have, during those 2 weeks' time, to download the data to your own local storage places. Talking about the fees, the way how we're going to structure the fees, and the ones I'm describing here are for academic research, for other ones for commercial and industry and things like that, and or animal research also would be for in a case by case, if you want. So for the bulk of the research, this academic research, the scanning would be $600 for the first 15 minutes. And then after that, $600 per hour in blocks of 15 minutes charged. And as we're going to see on Steve's presentation that follows mine, one of the benefits of this system is that it has high sensitivity. So your typical static scans are much shorter. So you can see here how this translates to typical scans. So for example, typical static scans would be about 15 minutes or so. So this is what they would cost. Dynamic scans, they might be more like 60 minutes or 90 minutes, and this is what they would cost. Naturally, the tracers and extra that you have over the scanning is the cost of the radio tracer, the pharmaceutical. And these ones can be sourced from various ways. So the Royal North Shore has a number of scans that trace that they're using routinely there. So we'll be able to access, users will be able to discuss access to those ones. There is obviously commercials, like for example, from Psychotech and other sources. And then more research development traces can be done with collaboration with the NIF nodes. And with this, I want to highlight that we're currently working with NIF to develop radiochemistry facilities at the Rhinosaur site that will be for research development. And this we're going to cover in an upcoming webinar, probably either later this month or next month. Yeah, so if you want, watch the space here, because there is a lot of things that we want to do with NIF to support more radiochemistry on site there at Rhinosaur site. And the other cost that we an extra is for reporting of the order of $200, and we're setting up with external contractors to do the reporting. So this kind of gives you an idea of what would be the typical cost for, let's say, a static scan or the dynamic scan, but obviously the range and types of scans will be very varied that we can support. Another thing that I'd like to announce, that we're very excited to announce, is that we're going to be setting up a pilot study seed fund scheme. This is funding to facilitate small pilot studies. What we mean by this is feasibility studies. The eligibility is going to be open to all academics. And I want to stress here, it's not just open to University of Sydney academic, but it's to every academic can apply, both internal and external from the university. And preference will be given to the early career researchers and mid-career researchers. Also importantly, the funding would cover both the scanning fees and the cost of the radiopharmaceuticals. The way how this is going to work is the application will be done through an online portal that we are in the process of setting up at the moment. It's going to look a bit like we have here on the right. So you're going to have to provide things like the title, the statement, the plan, budget justification, but it's a brief project plan, and keep an eye, we'll be opening very soon this. And it's important that this discussion, anyone that wants to apply for this, we should have first initial discussion with the total prepared fellow with Yorgos about the eligibility and access.